Tonight, the question of the day, given new evidence unearthed in a small district in Nevada where 2,000 people voted in the last 2 days of early voting, but Democrats mysteriously received 3,100 votes from those same 2 days, how can Democrats still not admit voter fraud exists? In just moments, Megan Barth weighs in. Then how can the European Union put so-called fake news in the same category as terror recruiting online, just in order to censor us, perhaps? And will the House Freedom Caucus block efforts to delay the repeal of Obamacare? Thanks for being here tonight. As you know, our nation is at a tipping point. We either turn America towards liberty or we risk losing her forever. So let's get started. Our first tipping point tonight, given the new evidence unearthed in a small district in Nevada where 2,000 people voted in the last 2 days of early voting, but Democrats mysteriously received 3,100 votes from those same 2 days, how can Democrats still not admit voter fraud exists? It almost sounds like the plot to a movie here. A champion chess player, a pattern recognition expert, an investigator of crimes runs for state assembly and stumbles upon what could be a voter fraud on a massive scale. Bigger perhaps than the Acorn scandal exposed by James O'Keefe back in 2009, which was one of the most serious breaches of voter integrity in recent history. Meet the man himself, former state assembly candidate Stan Vaughn.
My name is Stan Vaughn. I was the Republican candidate for Assembly 15 in the recent general election. My background is I'm the WCF World Chess Champion. I'm also a three-time correspondence through the mail champion, two-time Mensa High IQ Society certified at 196, Special Interest Group World Champion, gold medalist in 1980 student games, a world record for the number of blindfold chess games played at one time, and a world record for simultaneous correspondence games played at one time. One of the key things is my background is in statistics and pattern recognitions.
Just a few brains rattling around in that guy's head. With me now, founder and proprietor of ReaganBaby.com, Megan Barth. Megan, thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for featuring my story, Liz.
Megan, this is an incredible story. You unearthed this story. You're the one that interviewed Stan Vaughn here, and now you contend that what he revealed to you could be the largest voter fraud scheme since Acorn?
Yeah, and beyond Stan Vaughn's genius, he also worked for the United States Postal Service. And this is how I believe Stan cracked the code to voter fraud in his small district, which only received 17,000 votes. What Stan Vaughn did as he was canvassing his neighborhood with 400 volunteers is every time he came across an address or a name that didn't exist or they couldn't find, they would check it off. And then they would send a first-class stamped envelope to that address. They did that 10,000 times. They sent 10,000 envelopes. And they got 9,200 returned from the U.S. Postal Service.
Right, and the significant part here, and I want to point this out for our viewers, when politicians send bulk mail, if the address is not valid, they don't receive that mail back. But if you send it in a first-class envelope with a first-class stamp, not only will the United States Postal Service return that mail to you, they have to return it with a reason why it was undeliverable.
Exactly. So now we have the reason why only 1 in 10 voters truly existed in that district. That's what it boils down to. Even though these voters came off active voter rolls, which means that all of these names, the 10,000 names, likely voted in the last election or did vote in the last election. What we found is 9,200 of them didn't. Some names, including Edward Snowden, Emma Thompson, Willie Nelson, Waylon Jennings. Reasons from the post office came back that people were deceased. They moved out of the district, or there were multiple persons listed in an address with no mail receptacle.
Right, and of these 9,200 that were undeliverable, not only were some of them, a few of them, active voters, because I'm sure there are some errors that are made, but Stan Vaughn did a count here, a sample count of 200 of these undeliverable addresses. 185 of those 200 voted in the 2016 election.
That's correct. And let's also keep in mind that Donald Trump lost this state by only 26,000 votes, supposedly, and 2,000 votes in Washoe County defeated Trump, and the rest were in Clark County. So Clark County is wrought with fraud. And we've got two aspects of fraud now going on because there's multiple aspects of voter fraud. We have one through mail registration and voter registration, false voter registration, which gives us now a certified document from the U.S. Postal Service as a non-existent voter. Second, we have printouts from the Clark County Registrar's Office that show huge anomalies or impossibilities, like you had mentioned at the top. You can't get 3,100 votes if only 2,000 people voted.
Right, and let me repeat that again. In the early voting, this was the last 2 days of early voting. 2,000 people voted in this district in those 2 days. Yet afterwards, when the votes were counted for those 2 days, Democrats gained 3,100 votes from those same 2 days. You can't gain 3,100 votes out of 2,000 votes that were cast. That's 135% of the vote. That goes 100% to Democrats. I mean, if this doesn't warrant an investigation, Megan, I don't know what does.
Well, the FBI, an FBI agent did meet with Stan after our interview, and he did collect the evidence. We finally heard back from the Secretary of State, Barbara Sadowski, after we had waited since November 12th for a reply. She has now given Stan Bonn standing, because her office has finally replied. And now Clark County Registrar's Office is finally cooperating with Stan's complaint because he's been stonewalled.
Right, and I think that brings us back to the question of the day, and that's how Democrats, in an election such as this, where we've had James O'Keefe blowing open voter fraud in various states, now Stan Bonn potentially exposing what could be a massive voter fraud scheme, how can Democrats still not admit that voter fraud exists and could impact elections?
Well, Stan Bonn's district is small, and it's one of 42 assembly districts in this state. 500,000 people voted in this state. Donald Trump only lost by 26,000. Stan uncovered 185 voters that don't exist that voted in his district.
Right.
So I'm asking for an audit.
Right. It's absolutely incredible. It's startling that something like this could be happening. Megan, I mean, this is the million-dollar question. Who's behind this?
Oh, we're putting all the pieces together, but I can tell you what. There is an illegal immigrant by the name of Astrid Silva who works for Plan Nevada. Plan Nevada is a George Soros-funded operation, and she was featured at the DNC National Convention. She was tapped by the Hillary campaign to get out the vote in Nevada. And I guess she did pretty good, or at least a combination thereof.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible. Like I said, it's breathtaking. Megan, as you continue to investigate this story yourself, as the authorities hopefully give credence to this, because the integrity of our votes are on the line here, please check back with us. Please update our viewers on this story because it's quite astounding. Thanks for being here today. All right.